Good morning. Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. I'm Reverend Paul Beckel. We begin today by acknowledging that this land is the traditional territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples. Their presence is imbued in these mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines. May we nurture our relationships with our Coast Salish neighbors and the shared responsibilities to their homelands where we all reside today.
And good morning. I am Reverend Tessie Mandeville, Community Minister at Buff, and I too welcome you to this Easter Sunday service. Whether you've been worshiping with us the past year over Zoom, or whether you're new to this Buff community, whoever you are and wherever you're from, we're glad you're here. I hope you have a chalice or candle nearby, because now is the time in our service where we'd like to light our chalice. So I'll light mine from home, invite you to do the same, while Paul lights the chalice in our Buff sanctuary. And as you're lighting your chalices, hear this ancient Celtic prayer said anew this Easter morning. Love with us, love before us, love behind us, love in us, love beneath us, love above us, love on our right and love on our left, love when we lie down, love when we sit down, and love when we arise. Love in the heart of every person who thinks of us. Love in the mouth of every person who speaks of us. Love in the eye of everyone who sees us. Love in the ear of everyone who hears us. We arise today in love. And now, as the words appear on our screens, let's say our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant.
The music director here, pleased to be in the sanctuary with 6 or 8 live bodies, and they are going to join us singing the wonderful hymn, Morning Has Broken, which you can find in your gray hymn books, number 38. The vocal ensemble of Lisa Heesen, Ann Stevenson, Al Heesen, I, Barbara Gilday, and Jamie Curley are joining us here to sing live out to you in Zoomland. Morning Has Broken.
Thank you, Tessie, for that wonderful chalice lighting prayer. And thank you, ensemble. I got to sit right in the middle of all that, and they were just singing all around me, and that was just so sweet. So here we are in our second Easter season in this apparently indefinite period of pandemic. Last Easter, it hardly seemed possible. We have since then mourned all too many deaths. Deaths from disease and drugs and suicide and hatred. Beloved institutions threatened and going under. Families torn apart. Deep, deep loneliness. What can we say when we awaken to another day then? Another Easter Sunday. I feel so grateful to hear the birds actually singing all around me. And I want to say and encourage all of you to say, yes, I can say, welcome, life. We are not finished with you yet. Let's sing together. Number 1010, We Give Thanks. With deep, deep gratitude, then, let's take this moment to embody mindfulness of what actually exists in and around us. The fullness, all of the sensations, our groundedness to the earth. Letting our thoughts float past us. Just feeling the temperature of the room, the sound of our breathing, the solidity of our bodies. Knowing that all of this is real. All of us are experiencing it a little bit differently. And yet we are joined together in spirit today. Joined together in our joys and sorrows, our curiosity, the curiosity of wonder, but also the curiosity of anger or pain or frustration, how can we be here, and how can we get past here? And yet we return to our bodies, our breathing, our solidity. Held together in this way, let's take a moment to share that which is on our hearts, the feelings. Let those thoughts keep floating by, but the feelings that are hard to let go of, maybe we can just let go of them for this hour by letting them float out of our fingers onto the keyboard and put them in a few words. I will read them off of the chat screen if you type them in, and perhaps we can just keep our eyes closed so you can hear them if you would like. Rather than reading them, I'll read them out loud. Let's take this moment to be together that way. Wow. Live choir. Jane Ronka Washburn, it brings tears to my eyes to hear the choir singing after such a long time. Both the voices and the view of our lovely sanctuary. He is risen indeed. Celebrating my birthday. Celebrating the birthday of my daughter-in-law, Saskia, who works as a nurse. In gratitude for securing housing, exclamation point ×3. Thanks to all who held the intention with me. For our neighbor Tom in the ICU. Gratitude for getting to hug grandkids this weekend. Gratitude for the signs of spring. Grateful for the beauty of nature, my beloved and loving Father Jim. Died yesterday at age 94. This is from Drew Betts. My sisters and I all were able to say goodbye in person. Gratitude for the genuine dialogue in Widening the Circle this morning. Spring's shades of green. How much gratitude we have today. Gratitude for a bike ride. A brother passed away 2 weeks ago. He was 82, had Alzheimer's. Gratitude for the beauty of creation and life-giving power of mothers. And this is just us, and yet we embrace buff members and friends who aren't quite ready to be on another Zoom meeting, those who are enjoying the cathedral of the open air, and all of our fellow humankind who are celebrating other faith traditions today, all those who are unsure where they belong, we embrace them all. And we are grateful to be together.
Spirit of Life, number 1, 2, 3. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Davis, and I've been asked to give our Racism Minute this Sunday. In November, the congregation passed a resolution to adopt a covenant of beloved community. The covenant reads, "We, a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." In other congregations within the UUA, this was adopted as a principle, but Buff decided in a near 50-50 vote to adopt this statement as a covenant, which is a promise or a commitment to one another. Many questions about the wording of the resolution, terms used, and the functions of resolutions within Buff and in UUism, and about our UU identity and principles were raised at the congregational meeting. So my goal this morning is to give just a brief update on what has happened since the resolution passed. As you can imagine, I was wondering how to fit this into 1 minute. Listening sessions were held as an open forum for congregants to share their thoughts, questions, ideas, and concerns about the resolution after the congregational meeting. Various groups at Buff that were involved in the process: the 8th Principle team, who initially proposed the principle, Healthy Relationships, our Social and Environmental Justice Committee, Buff's leadership, have all had conversations, formal and informal, debriefing and processing all that happened at the meeting, before the meeting, and since the meeting. So as co-chair of the Healthy Relationships team, I offered and have been convening a group to meet regularly and discuss next steps. We're meeting on the first Thursday of the month at 5:30 p.m., and the link to our meeting is included in the midweek update. Many Buff leaders attend, and at the same time, it is an open meeting to anyone who wants to come. We have identified 2 main needs. One, a transition team or leadership team of some sort working on implementation, and the other is an open forum for anyone to come and share ideas, hear about what's going on, or give and receive feedback on activities at Buff within that anti-racist, multicultural lens. One of the hopes for this is that it can be a space for equalizing power within the organization. The question of where do we go from here is not an easy one to answer. As a TED Talk I recently watched stated, racism is not like your tonsils. You can't just get it taken out. It's more like dental hygiene. Even though you see yourself as a clean person, you still have to brush your teeth. And occasionally someone might tell you that you have something stuck in them and it's embarrassing, but you can't just say, I don't have something stuck in my teeth. I'm a clean person. How could that be? Just like you can't say, I don't have racism in my thoughts and actions, because you are a good person or a liberal or a UU. So when we say that we are building beloved community, a big part of what we are building is a relationship with one another that can hold us as we try new things and make mistakes and grow. So we're meeting monthly and we're having conversations. A slightly different group has attended each meeting. Some of you have heard the phrase, go slow to go fast. I would say that that's what we're doing. We're having constructive dialogue and trying to envision how change could come about at Buff as an organizational system. There are a few specific actions that we've discussed. 47 members of Buff are participating in Widening the Circle, a program learning about racism and anti-racism within UUism, based on a report published by the UUA that examined the experiences of people of color in our denomination. A small group is formed called ABCs, looking at options for scholarships or mentoring opportunities. There is a rapid response phone tree for those who want to show up to marches or vigils in the community. And there has been a wide agreement that we need to do our internal work first by learning about how white supremacy shows up in ourselves and within Buff. You might call those things the what. However, I would say we're spending more time in our meetings talking about the how. The group is committed to questioning our own assumptions about how we organize, even within our group. Questions like, do we need a hierarchy or a leader? Do we need an agenda? When do we set the agenda aside? Do we create time to be with one another in addition to time to get things done? Do we expect broad participation? Or do we assume that 20% of the people will do the typical 80% of the work? Are there alternatives to taking notes? Like maybe taking a video? So if you're feeling like this update was a little bit more confusing than clarifying, well, you might be in good company. This process feels a little messy, but I want to say that I'm okay with that. I see systemic change as non-linear. It's more like a kaleidoscope shifting. So in this context, I take that a little bit of messiness and discomfort is a sign that maybe, just maybe, we're on the right track.
Melanie is going to lead this song.
We're now going to sing Building a New Way, which is in the Teal Hymn Book 1017. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to free hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry.
We remember today the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. on this day, April 4th, 1968. We also call to mind this week those assassinated this week and last week and the week before that in mass shootings in the United States. And with the trial in Minneapolis this week, we remember the murder of George Floyd. While I mourn these unnecessary, tragic deaths, one thing I appreciate about our Unitarian Universalist tradition is our tendency to acknowledge that death is real. Death is real. Lives are remembered. After we're gone, our acts of kindness will continue to ripple outward. The love we have given and received can never waste away. But death is real. I'm talking about the deaths of those we love, our own deaths, even the death of our liberal religious movement. I shared my concerns for the latter this morning at greater length in our Widening the Circle class, and I'll publish what I said in the next week's midweek update. But Unitarian Universalism, as it is today, is simply one form of our human drive toward liberation. An impulse that I believe, as long as there are humans, this impulse toward liberation will rise again. For now, I'd like to note that Easter is not about conquering death once and for all. Like spring, the Christian holiday of Easter comes around again and again and again. If we make it through another year, we get reminded. We get reminded that life can be renewed, hope can be renewed, love can overcome fear. We're reminded that Mother Earth has extraordinary powers to rejuvenate us and rejuvenate herself. Warmed by the sun and drawn by the moon, her powers bring life back from the brink. While not limitless, these powers are unfathomable. Our gratitude might appropriately be limitless. Easter is a good and necessary reminder. We get knocked down. If we're lucky, we get back up. We rise again. It won't be permanent. We're going to fall again. And if we're lucky, or if we have help from one another, or with the grace of God, or if we have better than average health care, and if we're not one of the people that our society considers disposable, then we may rise again. Say that word with me. Again. Again. No, I don't mean say it again. I mean say again. Again. Next time you're tempted to say not again, remember to say, maybe shout, sing, again, again. This too shall pass. It takes a lot of humility to acknowledge that we need to rise again and again. There are no shortcuts. It takes great humility to acknowledge that regardless of how much privilege I have in this life, I won't escape death. And in the meantime, none of us will escape weakness and pain and failure and disappointment. Not for long if we're paying attention to what's going on around us. It takes a lot of humility. That word is related to humus, which is the organic matter in soil. It takes a lot of humility to acknowledge that I am made up of the very soil that I'm going back to soon enough. And the last time, that last time that I fell, it wasn't actually the last time. The last time is still to come. And in the meantime, we need one another so that we may rise again. I would be a fool to think that I am an independent entity, unneedful of earth's routine miracles, unneedful of the fabric of society, which I sometimes or often curse for its failures. The individual looks in vain to their own resurrection, my own success, getting what I deserve in life, without respect for the ancestors, without gratitude for the intertangled webs of nature and humanity, without consciousness of chance, providence, grace, fortune, luck, whatever you want to call it. My mind focused on my independence, my salvation, getting what I deserve. A few of us might get away with that and feel smug about it. We may think that we have earned our own salvation. My prayer for you today is that you will not get everything that you want in life and then believe that you deserve it. That's unbecoming. It's arrogant. And it's wrong, both in the sense of morally wrong and factually incorrect. None of us rise on our own power. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't do our damnedest, but that we do nothing alone. Let's pause for a moment for this song about mutuality, our longing for the embrace of something larger than ourselves, our sense of hope that rises through our commitment to love one another. There have been few collective Good Fridays, Good Friday moments in our lifetime like this one. Taking all of what has happened in the last year as one god-awful conflagration of death and the wickedness of willful denial of death. There have been few collective Good Friday moments like this. It will be more than 3 days before we rise again. But we are witness to the Unitarian, and more particularly, the Universalist legacy of trust in universal salvation. That concept has evolved a great deal over the centuries. Essentially, though, it's about a conviction that salvation is meaningless if it's understood as the end and purpose of our individual journeys. The initial concept of universal salvation was about life after death. Later on, salvation came to focus on the journey itself. But always, it was about beloved community, long before anyone came up with that exact phrase. From the beginning, the Universalist movement emphatically rejected the notion of individualism, that there could be any meaning in rising alone. Retaining that spirit across many generations, Universalism today calls us to remember that we rise and we fall together. Justice for the few, or even justice for the many, is a figment of our imagination. Until all are free, none are free. And though Good Friday reminds us again and again and again and again, say it again, Good Friday reminds us again through its images of barbarity that we fall again. Still the cycle, and we know this with our bodies, the cycle unites us in our common destiny. I'll conclude with this. Our oneness, our common destiny, does not mean that we have no individuality at all. We're not going to get very far together if we don't acknowledge that as individuals, we have different ways of learning and growing. We have different ways of contributing. We have different ways of knowing. We have different life experiences that will shape our understandings, our needs, and our visions. We do not have to remove all of our differences to become one. On the contrary, our richness, our energy, our depth arises out of our manyness. Not just the fact of our manyness or the mechanical or even spiritual benefits of manyness, but the action, the process, the doing of our manyness, the bolstering, affirming, and supporting that manyness that has been and will continue to enlarge our experience of oneness. Amen. Blessed be.
We have 3 anthems this morning, and they trace the progress of our choir from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. You heard that anthem from 2018 with a full choir here in the sanctuary, Melanie Reek playing the piano so beautifully, and Jeff Perdue on the French horn. And that is the vision that we carry in our hearts for our singing coming back soon. Then in the pandemic, we've only been able to sing digitally, and what we have next for you is a virtual choir in which each of the 57 voices learned their own part and recorded themselves by video at home, submitted it, where it was edited together visually and audio-wise to make a choir in harmony singing, even though none of the singers were ever in the same place. And this is one of those extraordinary processes that we've found ourselves in just so that we can sing. Although I have to say it's not very satisfying, but it's going to be fun to watch. This effort has been on behalf of the Interfaith Coalition, our congregation, and the whole 40 congregations that belong to the coalition are raising money to help those people who are experiencing homelessness. And so we chose a song to sing together. There are 57 voices representing almost 20 congregations and people from around the world. We had our singer from Italy and some from California and New York joining us. Everyone is putting their voices together in the hopes that what comes out will synchronize. And you will see some pictures of the work of the Interfaith Coalition that have been edited in. And you'll see the first verse is an ensemble with soloists from our congregation. You'll recognize Annie Sorich, and she's with us here on Zoom. And also another singer many of you know who's been in the chat, Aren Ayers. She's a part of that opening ensemble. I just want to recognize that this was an effort from the entire county and around the world to work together for a higher cause. It's called We Shall Be Known, the song by Carisha Longacre and the group Mamuse. Enjoy.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires.
We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time
Well, amen. In a year filled with so many changes, I am grateful for this community. The ways we've known each other, even over Zoom. The ways that we set seals upon one another's hearts, saying, until we meet again in person, we will still find ways to connect and to sing. And throughout this year, we've had glimpses that we will rise again. And with the help of the COVID-19 vaccine, our rising is even stronger, as evidenced by Kevin and an ensemble singing in person in the sanctuary for the first time in a year, even as they wear N95 masks. And through it all, I know for me, it has become clearer to whom I belong, and that is to this Buff community. And I imagine that many of y'all feel the same way. So this morning's offering, it will go to support this Buff community that has creatively supported us through this last year. And with all of our help, we'll continue to do so. And today is the day that we hope to receive your pledges for the next year. So if you haven't had a chance yet to send in your pledge amount, I invite you to send an email to sue@buff.org to let her know the amount you would like to pledge. And as Melanie plays the offertory, and right now in this moment, a slide will appear on your screen to let you know the ways that you can donate to Buff. And as always, we thank you for your generosity.
The offertory is by J.S. Bach, Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring.
Thank you so much. That was so inspiring to be able to sing with you today. And I heard you singing out there on the airwaves too. And to stand here on this stage where I know that we've had 40 and 50 and 60 voice choirs singing together, just knowing that we will be here again on the Risers is a pretty exciting prospect. Thank you so much for all the generosity that you've shown this year, even when you weren't able to come here in person, to make sure that our programs continued and that our outreach continued and that all of the different ways that we have found to stay connected have been able to continue. One of those ways is the first Monday of each month, so that's tomorrow night at 7, we have a Taizé service, which is led by Reverend Tessie Mandeville. And the Taizé service is a quieter, contemplative time to be together, to have chant-like songs and introspection. And it's a beautiful way to connect, not just to each other, but to something larger than ourselves. You can find a lot more details about that, including the Zoom link, in today's order of service, which, if you haven't found it yet, is on buff.org in the green box. You can always find it there, where you'll also find song lyrics and announcements. And you'll find in those announcements a link to the Zoom meeting for our Black Lives Matter meeting tomorrow night. You'll also find information about our upcoming online auction, and you'll see a very grateful, enthusiastic outburst by Vlad the Improver, our stewardship campaign chair, who is lauding us for the outburst of pledges received this past week. And of course, a little tickler if you haven't made that pledge yet. As Tessie noted, sue@buff.org or stewardship@buff.org or bookkeeper@buff.org, they all go to the same place and make sure that we can record your generous contribution and be prepared to develop a budget for programs for next year as we look forward to Rising again. So thank you again for all of your generosity, all of the different ways that you find to contribute to the mission of Buff's loving outreach to the world. And Tessie now will give us a benediction as I extinguish the chalice.
For our benediction this morning, hear these beautiful words from the writer Terry Tempest Williams, who said, "Once upon a time, when women were birds, there was the simple understanding that to sing at dawn and to sing at dusk was to heal the world through joy. The birds still remember what we have forgotten, that the world is meant to be celebrated. In that spirit, let's extinguish our chalices, but take this spirit of celebration with us as we sing the song Siya Hamba, as we listen when Melanie plays a postlude, and as we fellowship with each other in breakout sessions. Blessed be and happy Easter."